Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. Well, today everybody's talking about a sensational piece of television that took place last night during Tucker Carlson's cable news show. The whole of the show was devoted to with Tony Bobulinski, who made an appearance last week just before the final presidential debate between President Trump and Joe Biden, because he had been the recipient of an email in which a business transaction was being, or at least a company was being set up, and the way the description within the email had it was that 10% of the equity or holding of the company was to be assigned to the big guy. The big guy was the use of the term in the email. And according to Bobulinski, the big guy referred to Vice President Biden. What then happened when this email emerged was a massive storm of indignation and claims that this was all Russian disinformation. This is all a Kremlin operation to destroy Joe Biden, which is why he came forward last week, and why he and Bobulinski again came forward for this interview. He was very, very adamant to say, yes, these business dealings between me and the Bidens took place, had nothing whatever to do with Russia. Yes, I received these emails, and I understood that the big guy to be Joe Biden. What's really, at the very minimum, because it is a very complicated story to follow, we only know bits and pieces of it. We really don't know the whole thing yet. What, at the very minimum, we come away with is we know that Joe Biden lied through his teeth when he asserted that he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings, and that he and Hunter had never discussed them. Here, he's flat out contradicted by Tony Bobulinski, who came across as a very credible witness. All right, Peter, what was your take?
Well, I mean, I guess we could introduce this whole story as character is on the ballot. Okay, character is on the ballot. Well, Joe Biden is patently lied. He patently lied, okay, over and over again. And interestingly enough, Joe Biden and his campaign haven't denied anything either. Okay, they just stonewall, and we have this unprecedented, and I'm using this word very specifically, unprecedented collusion of the media working on his behalf. Now, that interview with Bobulinski is quite extraordinary, because as you point out, it is complicated, okay? And this works to the advantage of the media, because they're all lazy, and most of them are stupid. And of course, the Biden campaign likes it being opaque, because you need all of the moving pieces to get a definitive answer what's going on. We might get there, we might not. But what's really interesting, and I watched the interview twice, is that Bobulinski was quite adamant and very clear that these are messages, email messages and WhatsApp messages to him. He didn't write them. They were directed to him. He is the recipient. So, you know, these are the words of others. They're not his words. And he was, I mean, he's a businessman, but I mean, I was quite impressed with his delivery, is that you can decide yourself what they mean, okay? You don't have to ask my opinion. This is what is out there. And considering the amount of he has provided the public, or people that in the public that want to know about this, and or I have to assume the FBI. I don't know if he had that meeting with the FBI or not. It wasn't clear in the interview. But you know, there's a lot of material to go through here. But what we also learned, or at least what I knew, is how extensive. I mean, Hunter was a real globetrotter, wasn't he? I mean, all over the place. And we have to be very clear with our viewers, is that some of this was going on while Joe Biden was sitting, a sitting vice president, okay? And as Bobulinski pointed out, is that because of his career in the military, where he had dealt with very sensitive material, that he has a certain clearance. And it's even when you leave the military, some of those jobs, your clearance maintains. What about the Vice President of the United States? Okay, I mean, that's extraordinary. It's very interesting to me is that nobody in the Obama White House knew about this. Nobody in the State Department knew about this.
Right,
really?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they were keeping tabs on Hunter. I mean, he is the son of the Vice President of the United States, at least at the time. And when he pops up in Kazakhstan, he pops up in Romania. And another thing that was really interesting, and it was only touched upon, just barely touched upon at the very end. It looks like Bobulinski was he was cheated, I guess is the word, is that Hunter went around him, okay, and Hunter claiming in his own words, in messages that he sent, that he was some kind of attorney for a Chinese businessman. So the son of the former vice president, I didn't know Hunter had a legal degree.
I don't know that exactly. I didn't know that either. Yes.
Well, he doesn't have any experience in anything else. Okay, right. But I mean, what we learned, and it was only an hour in television is actually 40 minutes. Okay, and so what we learned in 40 minutes was just a very cavalier attitude, and this plausible deniability from the brother of Joe Biden. And that's kind of a smirk because we can get away with it. Okay. No one's going to stop us. So a very cavalier attitude, but I want to keep stressing, this is a complicated story. George and I are not alleging illegality at all here. We're not. Okay. We're not. But what I'm saying is that you have a candidate running for the president of the United States, and character is on the ballot. He's repeatedly been asked these questions here. I'm not just going after Joe because I want to go after Joe. This is national security at stake here. And this is what Bobulinski was talking about, is that he was getting himself or getting close to transactions where you would have some kind of peril, security peril. And as he kept saying, he pushed away from the table. All right, and so this is not a trifle here. We have lying, we have potential illegality. I mean, where did the money go? We didn't really get too far into that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very interesting question. Where did the money go? Because, to be honest, what one reads about these transactions is that it doesn't look like anything was ever done. It's not like they actually created some new business or whatever, or set up anything that has any lasting value. It sounds like a money laundering operation.
It was basically like that.
Yeah, that's it. There was a mechanism for transferring money, and I think largely into Hunter Biden's and James Biden, the brothers, pockets. Because we still don't know what actually was done. I mean, usually there's a business. Oh, we set up this business. Now it employs however many people. There's never any talk about that. Well, he was sort of looking around for investment opportunities. You give several $1 million for somebody to look around for investment opportunities. That's a nice gig. So you really get a sense that this is what was going on during the Obama years. Of course, the Obama people knew about this. They're not stupid people. They knew that that's exactly what Hunter Biden was doing. Hunter Biden was, and of course, the rest of the Biden family, they were trading on the vice president's name. And why were Kazakhstan, Romania, and of course, China transferring money? I mean, not because they're such generous people. They wanted power and influence in Washington.
You could bet your bottom dollar, or maybe bet Hunter's bottom dollar, that Masha in Ukraine knew what he was doing. Okay. Another thing that I think that I would have liked a little bit more expansion on is that Bobulinski made it more or less clear that he didn't benefit at all from this relationship.
Right. Yes. That's right. That's exactly. Yeah. I mean, I kind of assumed automatically that he didn't get any of the money. The money just went straight into Hunter Biden's pockets. Yeah, he didn't. He didn't get any.
That gives him so much more authenticity because he's not there like, where's my money? Where's my cut? Okay. He's not saying that at all. He's not saying that at all. Okay.
Right.
So
exactly. And it's interesting because he one of the emails or text message, I can't remember, shows that he wanted stricter controls on the company precisely because he didn't want to get into trouble with the IRS and with all the regulators. And he was then basically told, forget about it. There won't be any stricter controls. And that seemed to come from the big man. No strict controls. In other words, and then just close out.
That just lends more to the supposition that there might have been money laundering involved. Because I know I've worked in business, and corporate governance is one way to thwart that, to make sure it doesn't happen. You know, you keep a very close eye and you track where money flows go. When you have loose corporate governance, money can move around, as it were, okay, without much accountability. Another thing is that the character of Bobulinski is interesting to me, because and you don't really hear it that often because the media hates conservatives and hates tradition, but you know, it was because of his military background and the military background of his grandfather. He never mentioned his father, but his grandfather. You know, he felt that his family. His name and his family were being smeared by the liberal media by making it very clear that he's some kind of stooge for the Russians. And I guess that was his boiling point, okay? Yeah, because the way he sees it is that he's a patriotic American, and and from what we understand, he does. I mean, in business circles, he is a known person. He's probably good at or what they call a rain man. He helps generate money, okay? Right. And of course, yes. I mean, I guess at face value, do you have a client like the Biden family? Wow, that could go somewhere. Little did he know. So, I mean, his motivations were, I mean, if Adam Schiff and these other idiots had just not slurred him, he might have just said, you know, this is because he repeatedly says, I'm a small piece of this. I'm a nobody here. And he was very, very modest about that, and saying, let the evidence that I've presented you, let that speak for me, okay? And he was asked his opinion, and he said, you're asking my opinion? As if, you know, why would you ask me my opinion of something? So, I mean, as a credible person, I mean, he scored a 10 for 10.
I think so. I think so too. It is striking that he was clearly set up as the front man because he had a certain credibility. As it turned out, the front man, because he had credibility, said, well, I kind of would like some tighter controls. I don't want to get in trouble with the authorities. And in fact, he actually spoke, and you mentioned this, he spoke to James Biden and said, hey, do you realize what you're doing here? I mean, this could be serious stuff, particularly if your brother, the ex-vice president, is involved. He's going to be running for office. And if you're doing this, something, you know, he's essentially a money laundering operation, that could really hurt your brother. And that's when he brought up the liability. Now, what specific meaning? It means you do a criminal act, but your defense is, hey, I didn't know anything about it. I mean, you know, I was out of the room, you know, I was out of the loop, or whatever. That's what plausible deniability means. And when James Biden said it's plausible deniability, then to be honest, it does sound like, you know, Joe will be getting a benefit from this. But should anyone raise the question, he's going to say, hey, well, I didn't know anything. I mean, you know, what my family does is none of my concern. So that was clear. Now, the other thing is, of course, and Tucker kept returning to it again and again, is why has no one touched the story? And that is fascinating, because again, the media are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is report the news. But hey, we got to get Joe over the finish line, so we're damn well not going to report the news.
Yeah, I mean the thing the thing is Bobulinski and Hunter's laptop. I mean these are physical things. They're physical. They're tangible. They
Right.
have information on it. People have been able to glean information from it. But let's take RussiaGate. I mean CrowdStrike. They never produced any forensic evidence that the DNC was hacked. Okay, so that's the in RussiaGate. That's the only piece of physical evidence. The server. Everything else is innuendo. Everything else is made up. It's all mythology and
Right.
lies. Okay, but in this case, there are things to you can actually pick it up and read it. Okay,
Right.
that's a juxtaposition that the media has to be confronted with because they're given, in this situation, evidence is being presented. You and I are not lawyers, and we're not making any kind of determination here. But there seems we have a person that had one-on-one contact with all of the players involved. He has a record of his contact with them, his conversations. And they're all saved. They're all preserved here. Okay. I mean, if there was a case to look into, there's ample things to look at here. Unlike RussiaGate, which was just a cloud in the sky that just kind of moved around and disappeared.
That's right. And you remember during the 2-year-long Mueller investigation, which the media were breathlessly reported and touted,
The
and
walls are caving in.
and none of them thought it was incongruous that Mueller didn't do the most obvious thing: get on the phone to Julian Assange. Because if the whole issue of who hacked the server or was it hacked can always be answered. Julian Assange is there. He's the one person who knows the origin of all of that information. And they pointedly never went there, and the media never questioned Mueller's decision not to interview him.
Well, there's another source that was never tapped into, and it's the NSA. Now, the amount of information that was hacked, no, everybody, it was leaked, okay? But let's go with the official RussiaGate hoax story. It was hacked. Well, with that amount of information going over a line, the NSA can see it. They can see it. All right. And we have our good friends, Ray McGovern and his colleagues. What is it? Sanity.
Bill Binney.
Yeah, Bill Binney, which basically is the godfather of the NSA, said that technically it was impossible to have been a hack. Okay, just technically not possible. It was a leak. Somebody was at a server, put in a thumb drive, and downloaded everything here. Okay, but we're going afield here. My point in bringing it all up is that there's forensic evidence in the case surrounding the Biden family, but very little forensic evidence in RussiaGate, and whatever there was, it was not examined or completely dismissed or just made up.
That's right. And it's you have these reporters saying, "Oh, unverified," because we have asked to see the hard drive and we haven't been shown the hard drive. Well, there's no particular obligation for one media outlet to share its scoop with everyone else. It's their scoop. It's the New York Post stories. So, why should they share it? New York Times doesn't share its scoops. It doesn't share its Trump's tax returns. But what's also interesting is that WikiLeaks in 2016 published everything. It was there on the website. It was never a question of, we're not going to help our commercial rivals. It was all there. And then your friend Chris Cuomo said, well, if you go to that website and look at those emails, you are committing a crime. So stay the hell away.
But I'll read them and I'll tell you what they mean, okay? Right. I still remember that like it was yesterday. No, in rounding up here, I mean, Bobulinski is credible. His story made sense. He doesn't seem to have a dog in the game other than wanting to protect his family's good name. I mean, he didn't look like he was particularly old. I mean, he has a business to run. He has things to do. I'm sure he has to provide for people. I mean, he wants his name to be cleared just as much as he wants the truth to come to the fore. And again, it's because of you see all these talking heads on TV. You get the sense that everybody is a bit tainted and all that. And then you see this guy, and it's just like, wow, this guy is a real American. Okay, kind of refreshing, actually.
Yes. Well, exactly. And I'm looking at the media coverage today, and zero, nothing. Now, I imagine that within the next couple of days, the media might touch it, but only if they find something negative about Bobulinski. So wait for the story in the New York Times telling us that Bobulinski is a very shady character, say anonymous sources. And people who don't want to go on the record say he has very suspicious contacts and has been known to make trips to Eastern Europe and maybe even Russia. So stay the hell away from him.
One of the interesting things, and this is now a trend, I think you and I can definitively say this is a trend, is that you can apply Russiagate to anything now, and to destroy any countervailing fact, destroy a person's character. This is now definitively part of the DNA of public discourse. Okay, it's a cudgel to go against people that question the status quo. Okay, and this is terrifying. It is terrifying. I mean, when particularly, I mean, Bobulinski, he was exclusively involved with China in the Biden family, and nothing to do with Russia. Right. And then when he mentioned Russia, he said he read it in the Bloomberg media. Okay. Right. When he mentioned Rosneft and other things, I mean, he learned that from public sources, but he knew the names, the people, the amounts, the documentation for the Biden family's connections to China, not to Russia.
And that's why this story is an important one, and why the media refusal to cover it is so significant. Because after all, China is an election issue. I mean, it is something that is now being raised by Trump, and Biden is now repeating it himself. China is America's chief rival. China is a real problem for the United States, and if as this information shows, that Joe Biden was actually, extracting money, helping to extract money from China, then it's a bribe, and it may help explain why China has achieved its economically dominant status. So it is a very big deal. And that means just to say, oh, we're not touching it, is height of irresponsibility.
I don't know if it's fair for me to try to connect some dots here, but do you remember in the early part of the campaign, Biden said China is not our adversary. You know, a strong China is good for everyone in the world. I'm paraphrasing, of course, here. I mean, I don't know if there's a connection between that. I mean, he obviously the people surrounding Biden don't want Trump to be able to take the China card and play it themselves. Okay, or is it because they realize that revelations of corruption are percolating to the top? I want everybody to know is that, George and I had been talking about Burisma and the Biden family's involvement in Ukraine for years. I mean, none of this is new. This is just add a few extra layers for us. I mean, we've talked about the allegations, I want to be very clear, of corruption of the Biden family. So I'm not using this as a cudgel. I'm just saying character is on the ballot, okay?
Right.
So if it's on the ballot, why don't you be transparent?
And what's important here is that had we, learned similar stuff about the Trump family, that money had been moving from Russia into the Trump family, not necessarily to Donald, but to the members of his family. Can you imagine what the media would have done with this? I mean, how much oxygen was used up about the Michael Cohen's supposed deal to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, which never got beyond the phone call. No money was transferred, and that was a big deal that the media covered. And here, money from China, and this is apparently not an interest for journalists.
I mean, how many? I was going to say man hours, probably get canceled for that. Person hours was put into looking into Trump's finances. I mean, countless number of hours, but no one here wants to watch a 40-minute interview with an eyewitness or you don't want to take it credible. The duplicity of this, the double standard of it, is just amazing. It's breathtakingly unprecedented.
Breathtaking, yeah, absolutely. Well, we shall continue watching it and maintain our laser-like focus during the last few days of this election campaign. So thank you very much, Peter. And remember, if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.